Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the analysis of YOLENO TV. I hope you well. From wherever you're watching this channel, there's something that the Standard newspaper, the Sunday Standard newspaper, has shared, and it's a story about David Mugonyi. And the title of this story is Enemy of the Press. So without even going through the details, which I'm going to go through anyway, this story is about what took place on the 25th June 2025, whereby the Communications Authority stormed NTV, KTN transmission stations and deactivated the free-to-air signals and took them off air. You know, this move also affected Citizen TV's Limuru station. So this matter was not received well, and LSK had to go to court, and the courts directed the CA to undo what they did, rather to just bring back the channels, you know. So the Standard newspaper has given us a story about the enemy of the press. So before I take you through these details of this Standard newspaper, kindly take this opportunity, go below there and like this video. By the way, when you like this video, that is the only you make our channel, our videos get shared. So subscribe to this channel if you're not subscribed before, and to our existing subscribers, thank you so much for your support. Now, without wasting much time, allow me to take you through the details of the Standard newspaper. There's something here which I wanted to listen to. So it says, Hatchetman, from the front lines of truth to the machinery of suppression, David Mugonyi, once a fierce journalist chasing stories in the streets of Nairobi, has morphed into the media's greatest foe, and President William Ruto's loyal hatchetman at his beck and call, ready to switch off and curtail media in an act dripping with irony and impunity. The man who once fed off press freedom is now strangling it, ordering illegal TV blackouts and defying court rulings. His fall from watchdog to enforcer of silence is a cautionary tale of power and betrayal. Now the journalist turned censor stands accused of dismantling the very freedoms that build his career. So the story is still continuing on the other pages, but that is what is contained in the front page. Now, from this story, ladies and gentlemen, I think you've heard this part where we are told that David Mugonyi is curtailing media freedom. And again, based on this story, we are told that he is part and parcel of the media team, you know, and is one of those people who benefited from the freedom, from the media freedom. Now, perhaps you're wondering why he made that choice, because when the courts gave a directive ati or achiliezi, again, he could not respond, you know, so he ended up defying the court order. So
the question of closing or not closing depends on the circumstance. You have to weigh between national interest and also the individual interests of media houses. The national interest at any given time will be weighed, and if it's necessary to close a media house so that you can serve the nation, of course you do it.
What is happening here is that on that fateful day whereby there were demonstrations, of course there were scenes which were not okay with the government. That is why many people say that the call that William Ruto made when he was in Kilifi, remember, he had gone to Kilifi for the burial ceremony of the governor's father, I think so, if I'm not wrong. So during that meeting or at that event, the president was seen to be restless. So he could make calls, many calls, a sign that things were not well. Remember, the time that was happening, the event, the burial ceremony, in Nairobi, things were worsening. Demonstrations had taken a different toll. In fact, for those of you who went through the footages of what was being shared, demonstrations ilikuwa zimeenda to a level you can't even imagine. So that could explain why Ruto the president was restless, you know. So this could have led to the move by the CA to shut down KTN, shut down NTV, and I think Citizen was also partly affected. So all this were because they were told not to air the demonstrations, but they ended up still airing the demonstration. And we all heard what Murkomen said thereafter, because Murkomen talked about journalists who are fueling these demonstrations, trying to remind people to come out in large numbers.
Most of the media houses are working very hard during the onset of protest, telling people, oh yeah, wengine wamekuja, sasa tayari ndio hawa. They interviewing people in the street and tell them, what do you tell those who are still at home?
That was what was witnessed back then. So, to cut this long story short, ladies and gentlemen, David Mugonyi is being accused. And the accusation is on how he handled KTN transmissions, how he handled NTV transmissions, and how he handled part of Citizen TV transmissions. So those channels were adversely affected, and that explains why they could not air. They had to go offline for some time, but then they were still available on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok Live, those channels, and I think IG Live also. So they were still available in those platforms for people who wanted to look at the presentations of the day. So what is happening here, ladies and gentlemen, is that the media, the government is trying to curtail the media's freedom. And by doing that, the move will simply gag the media. Because now what we are foreseeing is that in the next election, but in the next demonstration, if at all it's going to be there, then media and I think that time ambao wanafaa waonyesha hizi vitu na time ambao wafai kuonyesha, I think that is going to come from the government, because the government wants to manage the demonstrations, kwa sababu based on how they've been talking, especially from Murkomen's words and Ichung'wa's words, ni dhahiri shairi kwamba wataangalia solution ya kudeal na wale watu ambao wanasema wamekuwa affected. So perhaps if you're watching this video and you've not subscribed, take 1 second and subscribe, like this video. Until you catch up again, stay safe and stay blessed.